Hey guys, so I basically am doing this video because I was looking through my videos and my Noppoo Choc Mini RGB keyboard review is doing pretty well apparently. It's like if you search for the review on Google, it's the only video that really shows up. Anyway, so this is going to be my thoughts after having this keyboard for, I don't know, about half a year. I actually only used it for a month or two because I was waiting basically to receive my Nano 75 that's over here, again manufactured by Noppoo. So let's begin by talking about these switches. So I type and game, so that's going to factor into it. The switches for me were just not, they just weren't for me. So something wrong that I said in my review originally is that these Noppoo switches, they're branded as Noppoo. They're actually manufactured by Gateron, not Gaute. So the advantage of being manufactured by Gateron, they are Gateron switches, so they're pre-lubed from the factory. However, one disadvantage is that the stems are a little bit looser on the keycap, so there's a little bit more wobble when using like a cherry keycap. And but I mean, being lubed from the factory is really nice. Like the browns, I can't use Cherry MX browns anymore for that, and because of their actuation point. Um, I guess that's something to discuss. So these Gateron blue. So this is again a blue board. You guys, oh, that's in the light, so you can't see that at all. There you go. That's blue. This one's browns. The actuation distance is different compared to Cherry. Gatorons are higher up, which I really like. I don't like going back to Cherry for that reason now because um, being a gamer, you notice really heavily the actuation point because you're in tune to that. And, you know, if you're walking and then you want to go down, you want to hit control to crouch. I mean, I'm not talking about like, you know, being, oh, you know, the 2 milliseconds that it takes to depress that extra distance matters. No, like that doesn't matter. It's just the feel of it's there and it's just on demand. You just tap it and it's ready to go. There's no, you know, half millimeter distance pre-travel that you got to do before you actuate anything. I really like the Gatorons are noticeably higher up. Like the distance between like the top and the tactile bump on Gatorons are about half the distance as cherries. That's what I found. So I did really like that about these stems. Now on the flip side, I don't like the Gatoron blues because they are a little bit too clicky for me. That like first actuation point, you know, like I said, I barely have to depress it. It's hard for me to wiggle the switch without actuating it because it's just so close to the top the actuation point is. But that blue stiffness, again, like Outemu blues, they're much clickier than like Cherry MX blues. The springs are the same, but it's the stem itself just has a much more pronounced bump that you got to overcome before it slaps that slider down and makes the click sound. So, for example, uh, these springs are the same. Or at least I think they're about the same. I took nickels, which courtesy of a Ripster from Mechanical Keyboard subreddit doing the Ripometer. The idea is that each nickel is exactly 5 grams according to the US Mint. So you can stack them and you can calculate the actuation force. And both my Cherry and my Gatoron brown board required 10 nickels. So that's 50 grams technically. And I know Cherry is supposed to actuate at 45, but the thing is, I don't know if it's like I didn't have them perfectly centered. I was trying to get them perfectly centered and whatnot, or if like the keycap, I don't know. What I'm chalking it up to is maybe the springs inside of like Cherry MX Browns are 45-gram springs, but you have that bump out on the switch, on the stem. So when you're pressing down, that's going to require a little bit more force, and therefore, you know, it'll be like a 46 or 47-gram actuation force. But when you put only 9 nickels on it, that's only 45 grams, so you're not actually going to actuate it. You do need to put that 10th gram, and that doesn't necessarily mean a 50-gram actuation force. It just means somewhere between 45 and 50. Same exact story with the Gatorons. Although the Gatoron switches, like I took out a Gatoron stem and a Cherry MX stem, and the Gatoron stem, honestly, that like little bump out area, it's nearly linear on the Gatoron Browns. Like Gatoron Browns, they are definitely browns if you type on them slowly. That bump is definitely there. Don't get me wrong. But when I'm typing fast, they feel like a linear switch, honestly. And I'm starting to kind of like it. I had a Corsair K65 with MX Reds for a long time, and I just bit the bullet because I really wanted RGB, and I hated the Reds, and I still used it. So I do really like the Gatoron Browns. But going back to the Gatoron Blues, these are a similar story where it's, instead of being, I'm sure it's a 45-gram spring in there, but I had to actually put 11 nickels on, not 10, 11, so 55 grams needed to depress it, or, between 50 and 55 at least. And again, I think that's, don't quote me on this, but I'm guessing it's probably the same spring as in here. However, that blue stem just has a much more pronounced bump that is very noticeable when you're actuating. It's not, when you're depressing the switch, the spring is like only 50% of the depression effort. The other 50% is that initial bump. Just feels pretty heavy. So that's something I didn't like about it as a gamer, is when you're reaching down with your left pinky to go to control, that's a weak finger, and you want to just be able to press it, and maybe just press it really quickly and then let back up on it, and so you're not fully stomping on the key. You just want to tap it really quick, but you end up not actuating it because it's just too much initial stiffness. So that was my main qualm about this board, was the blue switches aren't for me. And in this video, I'm probably going to be changing that up. I'm going to be putting some MX Clear stems in here, probably keeping the spring, definitely keeping the RGB LED, because that's what gives this keyboard so much personality. So I guess moving on, the RGB effects, lots of fun. Honestly, you end up kind of keeping it the same color, just so it's not distracting, but it's really fun to be able to know that you can play around with that and to show it off to friends. This is kind of lacking in some of the features, like, I'm not going to compare it to like Corsair's RGB keyboards, which are just nuts, but other RGB keyboards that are out there do have more functionality than this. This has, like the 6 different modes. You guys go watch my video on it if you haven't already, but it has like the basic ones, but it doesn't have like a rainbow wave, which is like that's kind of a standard, but whatever. Moving on, the layout, again, I love. I switched to my Noppoo Nano 75 as my daily driver, not mainly because I love the layout of this. It's just I wanted the more standard rows here, but something I did realize that this was lacking in is, if you guys look at the top here, my Nano has spacing between the F keys, and we don't have that up here. And it seems minor, but honestly, it's really helpful. I'm a person, I use my F keys. I use F5 for refresh. I've used F1 occasionally for help. And then I use F9 through F12 for recording stuff. So it does help, like, orient my eyes immediately with where I need to place my finger. And then again, the delete key's over here. So that's, and then escape over here. And it also adds a very good, like, symmetricalness to the board, too. Whereas on the Choc Mini, you don't have those breaks. I mean, on the flip side, you do get pause break and print screen, I guess, if you use those keys. Cool. But to me, it honestly makes the Choc Mini, it makes it look kind of cluttered. I personally don't like how the keys line up vertically with each other here. Maybe you do. I don't know. I just think it goes weird from, it's like diagonal and then orthogonal all of a sudden. I don't know. Hopefully I'm not spoiling it for any of you guys. Once it's been seen, you can't unsee it. But yeah, the layout again is great, except for like the non-standard certain keys. So something I do really like about this is the non-standard. These are still standard. Your modifiers, bottom row modifiers, are still standard. So I do like how that's kept nice and symmetrical. But in order to do that, they needed to make the spacebar 5.5U, which I'll get to later. Like, normally I would just keep the spacebar, but I'm really not a fan of the keycaps, which I'll get into in a little bit. And then the other non-standard keys are just the shift, I guess. And then like these are all 1U, the arrow keys and everything along here. But honestly, if you want to replace these keycaps, like you can do some goofy colory stuff because it's all on the edge, so it won't look all that bad if you put your artisans over there, especially since they're not the most commonly used keys. Delete, home, page up, page down, and I guess delete's commonly used, but point is, the layout's great. I don't understand why there aren't, everybody is all crazy about the 60% boards, and I don't know, at least for me, since I actually use the F keys and I actually use delete and escape, and like this for command prompt stuff in like Battlefront, I would rather just have an extra half inch of, have my desk have half-inch less desk space for, a bunch more keys. Okay, so let's go on to the keycaps now. The keycaps are the number 2 reason why I kind of stopped using this, and why I'm going to be doing this video kind of revitalizing this keyboard, because I have keycaps coming in the mail on Thursday. So, the keycaps suck. They are ABS. They are thick. They are very, very thick. I'll show you that here. Hopefully my camera focuses. I had to record this video a couple of times because it was being unhappy with me. Yeah. So you can see the tan one, the beige one on your right, that's PBT. The other one's ABS. The PBT one is about half the thickness. So these are nice thick keycaps, but they don't feel like it. They don't feel like heavy quality. They're glossy textured, which, I don't know, I guess some people might like that. Personally, I hate that because it shows fingerprints like a mother. Check out, I don't know if you guys can see my shift key at all. You can see it's a little bit kind of near the arrow part of the shift. It's a little bit darker there. That's like grease, I guess, from just finger oil. Like I'm not doing anything gross at my desk where I'm like sweating all over my keyboards. It's just literally, I don't know. So that sucks about it. And then on top of that, the laser etching on them, they are all laser etched, which, I mean, you can't really do double shot when you have like front and top printing. That would be really expensive. The dimple on the Windows key is, I think, annoying. I don't like that at all. You guys see that there? The quality of the laser etching kind of sucks. I think they went with like a slightly thicker font. Like, look at the backspace. They went with a slightly thicker font, I think, to make the laser etching not look as bad. But you can still tell it just is not precise. Also, there's some defects with some of my keys. I don't know if this is like multiple of my keys have it. It's more just worse on certain keys than on others. See if you guys can see on my V key. Okay, see that kind of like hammered look to it? Yeah, there's like really, really slight surface dimpling on it. You can't really feel it unless you kind of get your nail in there and really scrub at it. You can't feel it while typing, but it does look bad. It's like the keys look textured, but they aren't. They're actually smooth. And then on top of that, the laser etching, the legends are just, you guys can hear that. They're fairly thick with like or they etched fairly deep. And so again, that leads to kind of an inconsistent feel on the keycaps. And then the sound of them is they really just accentuate the ping of the blue switches. I'll compare this to my PBT keyboard. So even though the ABS one, it sounds kind of deeper, I guess that might be because it's thicker, the PBT ones just sound smoother and lighter and damped almost, which I personally prefer. If you like a really, really loud keyboard, then maybe you'll like how these keycaps sound, but I do not like them at all. Also, something else that's kind of irritating, but I don't know, it's not a big deal. These are actually like really sharp keycaps. Like, I could definitely... I could like actually break skin on myself if I wanted to. I don't know why they're so sharp, but they are. I guess these ones are kind of sharp too. Maybe I'm just going crazy. Whatever. So I think that just about. Oh, the disassembly. Something else that I gotta say. Most of you guys will never disassemble your keyboard, but if you do, these Noppoo keyboards are unfortunately put together in that clamshell kind of fashion where they have tabs on tabs and they just clip into each other. And so I guess the advantage is it looks really clean on the bottom side since you don't have any screw holes. But without screws, yeah, the plastic tabs kind of suck, and you got to wedge a flathead screwdriver in there to get to them, and it can kind of mess with your case if you really want your case to look nice all the time. I think that's pretty much about it. One last thing I gotta say is, oh, okay, no, a couple more things. The texturing on the case is really nice. I like seeing glossy cases now. Like even though this is shiny, this is definitely glossy, but because it's textured, it looks it looks like a mechanical keyboard. It doesn't look like a cheap gaming piece of crap. And then the soldering, beautiful red PCB. They're plate mounted switches though, which is going to be a pain in the ass for me to unsolder these, but some cool things. The diodes are mounted on the outside, which is really cool, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Beautiful soldering job. Everything is very shiny, very well done. They are RGB LEDs, so if you want to see what one of those looks like, here's the top view of it. And the front view of them. So you can see there, you have RGB and voltage in. So that means if you want to unsolder these suckers, you are going to need the 4-pin holes. So yeah, anyway, I think like for the price, it's not bad. There are, I think, different options out there. Plum, Royal Kludge, they both have some like 85. The Drevo Grammar, the Ajaz AK33. You know, this is a good board if you just if you have $120, you want clicky switches and you want RGB. If you're not a real keyboard enthusiast, if you're a real keyboard enthusiast, which is kind of, I'm getting to that point now. I'm starting to kind of see a lot of the flaws. Like the keycaps are really undesirable. That non-standard spacebar is going to be the death of me. I saw one guy had to 3D print one because you can't find 5.5U spacebars as far as I know. And then like the switches themselves, there's nothing wrong with them, but they are just not my taste at all. And so then that kind of leaves it like, okay, well the only real super valuable thing on here is the PCB, which, like, don't get me wrong, the PCB is gorgeous. It's red, it's really well done. I love the layout, and I love the 4-pin RGB LED support. But if I wanted that, I could have spent, half the price, and you could have gotten an Ajaz AK33 RGB for, I think they're around like $50, $55 on eBay. So yeah, that's my thoughts, I guess. After owning this keyboard for a little bit, I know this video is long. It was supposed to be kind of ranty. I warned you about that. Coming videos soon. If you guys actually made it to this point of this video and you care at all, I'm going to be making some videos soon about my other main peripherals that I use. So that would be my Nano 75 here, which is just a perfect keyboard in my opinion. I don't understand why there aren't more 75% boards out there. Like it's all the functionality of a 10 keyless and then a completely standard layout for keycaps. I don't understand why the heck companies gotta make a stupid little runt, Windows key and then make a 2U Alt key because who the hell uses right Alt that much? I don't know. And then I'll also be doing some videos on like my main mice. I have my my mutilated G400, and then my even more mutilated G400S, which I don't think I've shown you guys yet, but yeah, I've actually been using this guy, and it works. So, yeah. As always, if you guys have questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer as many as I can. Starting to put an asterisk on that because my videos are getting more popular and school keeps me busy. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next.